So let's go ahead and jump in. Welcome, everyone. My name is Tim Rabolt. I'm with the Association of Recovery in Higher Education, ARHE. Welcome to our first student webinar ever, which is really exciting, considering everything that we have going on right now, to hear from students in recovery themselves. All the students that you see up on your screen work with us at ARHE and are at different kind of schools and institutions throughout the country. I'll let all of them introduce themselves. They actually put this whole thing together. I'm just here to kind of welcome everyone and, make sure things are okay on the back end. If you have any questions that pop up, feel free to throw them into the chat box below and we can help out if there's any issues or if you have any particular questions for any of the panelists today. This webinar will also be recorded and we'll throw it up on YouTube and our website afterwards in case you want to go back and share it or watch anything again, because I know they'll all do a fabulous job. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Hallie.
Hi, everyone. My name's Hallie, and I'm an ARHE intern. I'm a master's student in social work at Illinois State University, and I'm going to let all the other attendees introduce themselves. So if Allie, you want to go next.
My name's Allie. I am, as stated before, an intern with ARHE. I've been with ARHE about almost a year now. I'm a MBA student at St. Catherine University here in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I'm really excited to be here. And yes, I have on a Sully for Monsters Inc. onesie, and that is my background. So maybe I'm in Monsters Inc. right now. Who knows?
Erin, if you want to go next.
Hi, y'all. My name is Erin. I'm an undergraduate student at the University of Georgia. I'll be graduating this semester with my bachelor's in health promotion, and I'm very excited to be here with y'all today.
And Maysa?
Hey, everyone. My name is Maysa. Pronouns are she, her, hers. I go to the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and I'm currently in my last semester of my undergrad, getting a bachelor's in psychology, and then I'll be starting on my MSW. And like everyone else, I'm really excited to be here.
And Justin.
So my name is Justin. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a senior at Texas Tech University, studying human sciences with concentrations in addictive disorders and recovery studies, human development and family studies, and psychology. Plan to get my master's degree in clinical mental health counseling, and I am a fairly new intern with ARHE.
All right, so how can we connect to students during this time? What have you done to connect, and as well as like reaching out to others?
Do you want to go ahead and start with me again?
Anyone can go. We can kind of popcorn this around.
Gotcha. I personally have been connecting with people through a lot of Zoom calls. I'm also a certified peer recovery specialist with our local treatment court, and that's kind of been how I provide those services now. It's a little bit different, but I'm doing the best I can with that. I've also started, we didn't have a Facebook group, and we do now, and so kind of really engaging with our participants as far as doing things like quote unquote quarantine bingo. So I'll put something out that's like a contest of if you're the first person to bake cookies and show me proof, you'll get entered in for a prize kind of thing. And so really kind of trying to find positive activities to engage people in.
I'll go next. One big thing that I think we can all agree on is the GroupMes that are going on. I love all the animal pictures, all the memes and everything like that. And we do have a lot of fun, but I've noticed a lot of students have really been connecting and sharing things that are going on with them and problems that they're having having a bad day, struggling with, transitioning to online classes, dealing with the quarantine and everything like that. And it doesn't seem to matter what time of the day it is when someone says, hey, I'm having a bad day, or this is what I'm struggling with. People like reply, seems to be like almost automatically, and offer support. And I think that's, really cool to see students that probably normally wouldn't ever connect with each other, wouldn't ever meet each other, to be able to connect and be that support group that I think so many of us are missing right now, and that we are, we're not able to see the people that, from our normal collegiate recovery communities, or the people that attend the same 12-step meetings, or whatever it is that we have as our support system. So I think that's been the biggest connection that I've had so far.
I'll jump in. I definitely reiterate what Justin says a lot. We've had some really great connections. Like, I've gotten to talk back and forth with some core students who respond on every day. And when I met with them on Zoom, it was like we were part of the same CRC. So that's been really beneficial. And it's also awesome that we have people like Hallie in the group chat. So if someone needs maybe a little bit more of a one-on-one conversation, we have peer recovery specialists who can kind of facilitate that. Other things, definitely Zoom has been a big one. And I know collaborating between different CRCs has been awesome. So for example, my CRC has been doing meetings with Clements and USC. And that's been super cool because, if people can't make times, we still always have a good turnout between the 3 CRCs. And we all tend to be in the same position. So a lot of that relating over maybe having to move home, having to switch to online classes, cancel graduations. And I know personally, I have found myself being able to be more vulnerable because I have this shared connection, this shared struggle with a lot of people. And that's awesome. And that's not something I can find in maybe other forms of recovery that I pursue. And so we have almost 100 students in that group me. And so everyone, anytime an issue is brought up or someone's having a hard time, someone else has that experience as well. And it helps us not feel alone.
I definitely agree with literally everything all of you are saying. That group me has been a very large source of comfort during the quarantine and stuff like that, especially like you mentioned, Erin, with like so much uncertainty going on with graduations being canceled and stuff like that. Another thing that we've been doing that has helped a lot with our CRC and the group me is like Netflix movie nights and stuff. All of us are typically on our laptops, on our computers all the time. So it's like really nice having that companionship when you're watching a movie and like having other people comment on it when you're watching it and stuff like that. So it doesn't feel very alone. But yeah.
Yeah, you all kind of touched on things you're doing for your CRCs and continuing that connection. How can students, though, find support without in-person meetings? Like, where can they go online and continue their social distancing while still finding that support? Like, where can they find that information?
Well, if someone's looking for online meetings, there's a, hang on, I'm gonna have to look it up, but there's a, the AA, like the general AA website has several online meetings. Actually, it has meetings going continuously every hour. I mean, 24 hours a day. So there's always that. If you're looking for a meeting to attend, I know locally we have some local 12-step meetings that are meeting on Zoom, but I know that that's not the case, everywhere geographically. But when I find it, I'll put that link in the chat.
Yeah, I would echo what Justin said. A lot of the 12-step programs on their websites have added temporary tabs for online meetings. So I know for my district, we have probably a couple dozen throughout the day. And I have access to, and I can also send this in the chat, a link of meetings that are throughout different time zones, both in the United States and Canada as well. And so that offers opportunities probably every 30 minutes of every day there's a meeting. And for people not involved in 12-step, that's where I would again encourage people to share the GroupMe with their students, because there's constant conversations, and we have some CRC and CRP representatives in the group who sent information about the meetings they're conducting, or maybe partnered CRCs are conducting. And so that's a really awesome opportunity, but I'll definitely send the link to that Excel sheet that I have as well.
Anyone else have anything to add?
Maybe not necessarily with like resources for it, but like with anyone that might be hesitant to like hop onto a Zoom recovery meeting and stuff like that. I was at first, both with 12-step meetings and my CRC meetings, just because you don't have that interpersonal contact and physical, like sitting there next to someone and stuff like that. But it's definitely takes some getting used to, as do all things during this time, but it's definitely a very safe space to be sitting in. It's very comforting. It honestly feels like you're just on FaceTime with a bunch of friends just talking. So, you know, anyone that has any reservations about getting started with one of those, it's definitely a good idea.
And then too, there's been some kind of talk about it that we've tossed out, a Zoom room specifically to collegiate recovery and ARHE, kind of facilitated by the interns. And it's a really neat calendar of different things each day. So it's not just, it's recovery support, of course, but it's also real life things too. So it's a study session where we're holding each other accountable by being on camera, and I can point at you and go, no, I know you're not studying. I see you there. I see you poking on your phone. You're not studying, kind of thing. It's almost like when you go to coffee with a friend and study, and you don't even like talk to each other, but you're just there holding each other accountable. We're doing things like how-to nights, where we're kind of doing tutorials on Zoom. So, and the cool thing about doing a tutorial on Zoom is if somebody has a question, they can go ahead and answer it versus it being a pre-recorded YouTube video or something like that. So those that learn better by seeing versus like hearing or anything like that can actually ask questions too. And then of course, things like at first thing in the morning is our coffee hour. So just kind of getting up and talking to people on more just that human level. I feel now is the time more than ever that just support and being able to envelope people in a cloud and a fluffy cloud of support is, and even if deep topics don't get discussed, that's fine too. It's just a matter of just being there to support each other right now. And I really think we keep going back to that GroupMe, but you know, that GroupMe has all of that information in it, and we'll have flyers out as well about these Zoom rooms that we're doing with links to it. But I think it has potential to be a really neat thing. Sorry about that. I think it has potential to be a really neat and effective tool for not only students, but just kind of anybody interested in collegiate recovery too.
Maysa, you brought up a really great point about transitioning from in-person to online meetings and using the Zoom platform. How different is it for students? Of course, it's different because you don't have that interpersonal connection, but how have you all been able to combat that difference in meetings and meeting up with people and gaining that support?
I think I'll go back to something that Hallie mentioned about holding people accountable. I've started, me and one of my other friends in my CRC have become accountability buddies just because it's so easy to not hop onto a recovery meeting just by saying, well, I'm fine and I don't need it and stuff like that. And like, you don't get the same feeling from being on Zoom and stuff. So maybe partnering up with, you know, someone in the group message and stuff and being like, hey, if I'm not on this meeting, you know, let me know and like make me come to it and stuff like that. Cause like I guarantee like you'll leave with something that you didn't have like the hour before you started the meeting. so it's uncomfortable, but it's, you know, something we all, like you said, have to get used to for the time being. And, you know, you never know, you might end up liking it a lot more than in-person meetings.
I know that was an unprompted question and it just came to my mind. But does anyone else have anything to add? Okay, so thanks for taking the lead on that one, Maysa. Without the physical contact, how can we provide support to people who are in early recovery or actively using with substance use disorder?
I think I kind of touched on this a little bit before we actually opened this up, but I think this is a really good time for, you know, us to kind of dive into our harm reduction piece, or our just being empathetic and understanding of the students that may still be actively using or wanting to try to quit using or things like that. And, you know, making sure at this time that some of those basic needs are being met, because if basic needs aren't being met, in my opinion, you can't expect someone to give up something that they've held so dear to them for years. So, you know, kind of finding whether it's things like food, shelter, clothing, making sure our students have those needs met in a weird time when, you know, we never thought those needs wouldn't be met. And really just kind of assuring that that foundation is met before we try to, you know, I don't want to say scare them into recovery, but before, and making sure they're alive. As I said before too, like the fact of the matter is, and this is going to sound very upfront, but dead people don't recover. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing to keep in mind at this point.
I really appreciate what Hallie had to say there. I think it's really important that we can't expect people to give up potentially lifelong coping mechanisms, especially during this chaos. So there's a lot of new questions to ask. So for example, we're talking about Zoom meetings, group meets, all virtual platforms. So it might be beneficial to reach out to students and make sure they have access to internet. I know some people in my recovery network have been helping others reach out. So I think Spectrum is doing 60 to 90 days of free Wi-Fi. So reaching out to people and helping them get set up, because if they don't have internet, they might not know where to call or what to do. So there are all those new boundaries in terms of getting to recovery that we haven't had to navigate before, because it's always just been, okay, show up here, get this wisdom, get people to write down phone numbers maybe. So it's considering all the new barriers that we haven't had to face before this environment, I guess is the way to put it. And making sure, like Hallie said, those basic needs are met, and making sure we're asking the questions about new challenges that might be coming up and might be stopping people from coming in, because it really might be a can't instead of a won't or don't want to.
That was a lot of great insight. So, you know, how can we, Erin, you kind of alluded to it, reaching out to individuals one-on-one. Is there any other way we can be more like aware of these barriers of more vulnerable populations who don't have access to teletherapy, food, a good home at the time? Is there any other way?
I think the most important thing on that is just understanding, first of all, that not everyone has the same resources. I think a lot of times we get into our new normal, our new routines of logging into our computers and things like that, and we just assume that because someone's a college student that they have a computer or they have a smartphone or that they have internet connection or whatever it is, and we kind of operate in that mindset of privilege that we get into without even meaning to or even noticing it. So we lose sight of the fact that, you know, there are people that don't have these resources. So I think the first step of, you know, being supportive is asking, you know, like, hey, do you know someone in your community or you know, that might not have, you know, internet access or might not have the technology accessible, you know, and then trying to locate, you know, resources for them. You know, locating resources through all of us on the panel has kind of become second nature. I mean, you know, people studying social work and counseling, and then, you know, Hallie, with your experience, you know, in your job, we hear of a problem and we're like, oh, you know, I know, you know, this organization can take care of that. You know, we know what's available in our own communities, but being able to, you know, do a search for, you know, what are some available Wi-Fi spots, you know, in other communities, and really making those resources known to other people. But yeah, a lot of times if we don't ask, you know, we're never going to know, you know, who out there really needs the resources.
And we have a question from some of the participants. How are you all dealing with being in so many different Zoom meetings with additionally, you know, class on top of the Zoom meetings, and balancing your homework, class Zoom meetings, personal Zoom meetings, recovery Zoom meetings?
So I'm kind of, I don't want to say anomaly, but I actually don't attend support meetings, recovery support meetings, 12-step meetings, kind of anything. So I feel you on those too many Zoom calls though, because I am in them all day long. And as much as I don't mind getting on another one, for me, it's about having that person in my phone that I can text or call at any time, and having that core group of friends that, you know, may not be a Zoom meeting, it may not be a face-to-face, but I can at least call or text somebody for that support. And actually, my other big thing, and something that I didn't expect, I'm a little bit of a non-traditional student at age 32. How old am I? I'm 33. I'll be 34 this year. You know, and that group me really is kind of a saving grace for me right now. I absolutely love the support in that, and I love that I don't have to be on it constantly. I can check it and go back to it and smile at some of the jokes and share pictures, and it feels like it's just a normal conversation. And, you know, I feel like I belong, and it's a really neat feeling. So I completely understand the not wanting to get on another Zoom. I fought Zoom and FaceTime hard and a tooth and nail. And then this event came along, and I was like, now I got to get used to FaceTime. And I mean, it's the only way I get to see my niece and nephew, which is fine. But like, as I said, I completely understand that part. So for me, it's about having those people in my phone that I can call or text, and really that group me that I can just kind of bounce into. And for me, I'm also like, I'm a big helper. And so finding ways to help my community or my family or my friends during all of this also does mounds and mounds for my recovery. So.
I really like what Hallie had to say about making yourself available. One of the other things that I have seen people struggle with is a lack of privacy. So a lot of students have moved home to live with family for the time being, whether it just be more comfort, financial insecurity, for whatever reason. So for example, I was in a call with someone at a CRC meeting, and he kept having to switch locations throughout the house during the meeting because he couldn't find a spot where his family wasn't going to be, and he didn't feel comfortable being fully vulnerable around them. Because recovery obviously can be such a complex, sensitive, and hard to talk about topic, although obviously we're working to get rid of that stigma. And so being available to people, if that's, so for example, on our schedule, we're having a late night meeting that's at 11 p.m. Eastern time, and one of our students who lives on Pacific is able to man that. So that means if students can only really do it late at night when everyone's in bed, we're making ourselves available. because I'm really, really lucky that I have a space I can talk, but I know that's definitely not a common theme with most people I work with.
One thing I would say to Ryan, in response to his question, even if you log into a Zoom meeting and then, turn your video off, turn your audio off, do what it is that you're doing anyway, whether you're working on homework or studying or whatever, and just listen. It doesn't take that psychological commitment to maybe participate, but you may hear something good, out of that meeting. And, there are some benefits to, we feel burned out. I think I spent more time on Zoom in the past 2 weeks than ever in my life. Yeah, just, log in, mute yourself, turn your video off, and just listen.
Erin, you kind of alluded to it, not having a safe place to have meetings and, not have meetings, but participate. And that, of course, causes more stress. So how can we be aware and help combat those stressors? You touched a little bit on it for meetings, but what about free time, structuring a day? This is a question for everyone as well. But how can we do that for students or anyone in recovery?
I think now kind of being able to recognize the stressors is kind of one of the underlying themes I think has come up a lot, is just listening and make sure we're actively listening and making sure that we're actually hearing what the person is saying. And as far as combating those stressors, I feel like self-care really looks different now than it ever has before in a lot of ways for a lot of people. And for me, it's been trying to find some normal in the thing that is not normal whatsoever. And for me, it's been, I have my seasonal affective disorder lamp. I have my happy lamp that I sit under every day for 45 minutes. And I've done that since this all started. So that's my little time of feeling normal for the day, but picking up something that, we've kind of done before that can make us feel a little bit more normal in the unnormal. And then also making sure that, we're not putting super high expectations on ourselves or other people as far as productivity goes. Reminding students that, their self-worth is not based on how productive they are, especially in a time like this, 10 times million more in a time like this. I think that needs to be known. And if, there's a day that comes by where they're like, I didn't study, I didn't work on any homework, guess what? That's okay. One of my mantras during this time, and something I tell myself every day, and I think I've written in my journal at least 5 times, but I'm like, no one knows what we're doing right now, and no one knows for sure how to do this right. So we're all just doing the best we can with what we have, and that truly looks different for everyone. And I think that's just really important to be aware of that and to understand that and remember that when we're talking to people who may not have the same resources we have. So when we're like, oh, a Zoom meeting, and they're like, I can't get on. I tried the other day and my phone doesn't work, and we're not there to physically walk them through that. I'll just tell a quick story. I got my grandmother an old iPhone and tried to get Facebook Messenger all spun up on it, and then tried to call her the next day to make sure she knew how to use it. And she's like, not right now. I was like, okay, we'll figure it out soon, but I'd love to video chat. So, you can't force people to try these new things right now. So.
One thing that I've been doing, I really agree with everything you just said, Allie, especially with living with parents and other people and stuff like that, and not necessarily having your own space to leave and go to work and stuff like that, and do your own thing. If you're able, maybe just take a walk outside on your own and stuff, and really get that space to think through everything you need to without any external distractions and stuff. or like if you don't want to do that, maybe just drive around a little bit and just come back home and stuff, you know, just change of scenery instead of seeing like the same faces, the same four walls and stuff like that. Just switch it up a little bit. The sensing that your self-worth comes from a feeling of productivity and success is something that I've struggled with for a while, especially right now. So being okay with, you know, if the only thing I did today was like make my bed and take a shower, like that's enough of a success for me today. And if tomorrow I do like 4 hours of work, that's fine too. And like you said, Allie, there's no blueprint on what's the right way to do this. So making sure that we're not hard on ourselves and not hard on any other people, and like judging how we're handling this global pandemic, and that it's okay not to be okay right now.
I'm more worried about the people that keep saying that they're great, you know, that they're fine, that you know, they're you know, not having any problems, because for one, I don't understand those people. But yeah, you know, even like, you know, what all of us, you know, the panelists were talking last night, and you know, it was funny, but it was, you know, really kind of serious. I made a comment about, you know, like, I'm gonna actually wear a nice shirt for this, and Haley said something about professional appearance is a social construct. And I got to thinking about that, and I was like, wow, that's, you know, that's really deep. I think at this point, with everything that we're going through, being successful, you know, we hear those words, you know, productivity, you know, I'm being productive, I'm being, you know, all these things. I think sometimes hearing that so much from other people can be a little bit dangerous, because just like everyone has said, if you're not at being as productive right now as you normally would, if you're, you know, if you're falling behind on assignments and, you know, things like that, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? One thing that I've noticed from my professors is that anytime they start an email, it started with, you know, I hope you're doing okay. If you're not, if you need something, please let me know. And it seems like a lot of the, you know, faculty and instructors are more, you know, they're going through this just like we are. You know, this is totally different for them too. They're having to, you know, reconfigure curriculums and things like that. And the same thing with employers. You know, we're all going through this together. So don't feel like you have to base how much you're doing or not doing off of what you hear or see from someone else. Because at the end of the day, success is an individual thing, and it's all based on what's working for us. So, you know, it's really important to not fall into that trap of comparing what you're doing with, you know, what other people are doing.
Yeah, I think you're going to, all right, I'm going to say something. The fact that I think what our values are going to switch a little bit to how we measure our self-worth, because the fact that success has been measured by what you're doing, or how much money you make, what you do, how much you volunteer. And I think that's changing now, and people may be able to see that they are more successful than what society expects of success. So thanks for really bringing that up. We just had another question that, how are you all including and making sure the spaces are safe for marginalized students?
I could start off with that one. Just like looking at who the ARHE interns and like staff and stuff like that, like we represent so many different identities in this space and stuff like that. And so making sure that we're being conscious of like the language that we're using, and really paying attention to who's in these rooms and who isn't able to. I know we touched on a lot of like accessibility issues and stuff like that, and stigmatization. So like one of the biggest projects we're doing right now, and I know we mentioned it a couple times, but the GroupMe, one of the other interns laid out like ground rules and stuff that we have in it. So really general, what is the word I'm looking for right now? I've been stuck at home and I don't remember English. Like foundational stuff that each person in the group message has to abide by, so that it's a very welcoming and like holistic space for everyone. So it's really making sure and being empathetic towards people and not sympathetic, putting yourself in other people's situations, stuff like that, and really trying to understand it from their perspective. It was an issue that I had, like a personal issue at my CRC, because coming into early recovery, no one in the rooms had looked like me and stuff like that. And like most CRC or like any recovery space, I didn't feel welcome and stuff. And so a large part of what we're doing right now is making sure that everyone feels welcome and appreciated in the spaces that we're creating. Yeah, I hope that answers part of the question.
I think too, as interns, we feel empowered to, if we see something go on, we call it out. Maybe not publicly, but we will talk to that person individually and kind of be like, hey, that's not cool. And really kind of nip it in the bud before it's, or mediate if it comes to that. And really just kind of making sure that, it is a safe space and kind of taking care of those problems when they do arise, rather than letting them build or letting them become bigger.
I also think with all the different representation we have, like Maysa talked about, we're using it as an opportunity to learn from each other. So for example, we did a Netflix watch party on Self-Made about Madam C.J. Walker. And one of the students we had on is African-American, and she was super, super kind to sit with us and explain the significance of hair in African-American culture. And so we're taking time to appreciate each other, to learn from each other. And that was super cool. I got to ask all the questions that I'd always felt dumb to ask, and she was super patient with me. She felt appreciated, and I felt like I was better able to empathize, not sympathize, of course, like Maysa said.
I agree with everything that you all just said.
So I can't remember who brought it up, but feeling like the ARHE interns feel empowered to kind of have that one-on-one conversation with someone. So the support for the ARHE interns is there. How can we support other student leaders? Whether that's just through our own CRC, other platforms that you may be at for meetings, whatever comes to mind.
I think there's some power in empowering student leaders to maybe reach out to some students who maybe are struggling a little bit in their recovery. I know for me, whenever I've been given the chance to be empowered as a leader or a helper, it makes me feel like $1 million. And I think, being aware of those individuals and letting them kind of shine in their own light, and especially any collegiate recovery professionals who maybe already have a lot on their plate and could use the help from those students. And really, there's a lot of power, and it's been researched and everything, but there's a lot of power and a lot of success behind peer-to-peer recovery support, behind knowing that someone has been in your shoes the exact same way is very, very powerful. And I think you know, that could really be seen at a collegiate recovery level. And I think now is a really good time to kind of let that shine and let that be introduced in a lot of collegiate recovery programs. And, you know, maybe like ends up being a social media marketing thing where, you know, you put it out on your collegiate recovery Facebook, or if you have the wherewithal to do it on your college's Facebook, and then you get new people that want to come in and see what it's all about, and just kind of really kind of owning that, I think, is really empowering. And then I kind of wanted to touch back really quick on the basic needs question. As far as, I know we talked a little bit about research and kind of how that far can go, but I think helping students who maybe have never had to apply for things like unemployment or SNAP benefits or things like that can be really helpful right now. I feel like there's, you know, when my college sent out the email that they were sending everyone home to include those who lived in the dorms. And then our college president was like, and some people, St. Kate's is their only home. I did this, I cried because I didn't quite think about that. And I think it's really important that we recognize those county benefits that a lot of people don't know how to apply for because they've never had to. And I think that it's important that we help with that and erase that stigma too, and erase that whole piece of, you're a student, you should have everything taken care of. Don't mom and dad pay for everything? It's like, nah, not always. That's not always true for every student. So I think we really need to make sure that, and not everybody needs to be an expert on these things, but knowing where to turn or knowing the person to send them to, and kind of empowering them to go forth and do those kind of things, I think is an important piece of all of this right now. So.
I think on the topic of empowering, I'm really cheesy in that I follow the 5 compliments a day rule, which sounds dumb, but I mean, we see probably hundreds of things a day that we like, whether it be someone's hat, you know, someone shared something from literature that you appreciate, someone said something in a meeting that kind of gave you a new perspective. Just getting in the chat and saying, hey, I really appreciate what we had to share, or, you know, reaching out to the person who led the meeting afterwards and saying, you did a great job, your topic was awesome, it inspired some really good conversation. Those simple acts can make a world of difference. Like, I know someone sent me one of those after I chaired a meeting and I cried because it felt so nice to be affirmed that I was trying my best, and for at least one person it was helpful. Because a lot of students that are leading right now, whether they're leading meetings or whether they're doing something like Hallie does, where she's working with different courts and clients and things like that, all those little actions deserve to be appreciated. And so that simple little compliment or that thank you can make a world of difference to someone who is putting their all into recovery field.
I think one thing, as far as, you know, like supporting the, like, I can't remember exactly how the original question was worded, but supporting, about supporting staff members, right? Or leaders in our collegiate recovery, or
supporting student leaders, or I mean, even staff members, as staff members are going through the exact same thing students are and wanting to support us.
I know one of our students did a, like, she bakes a lot of cookies and she dropped them off at staff members' houses, and you know, they let them know, like, you know, hey, there's cookies, you know, on your door. You know, I mean, that sounds like, I don't know. When I heard about it, I was like, what, you know, why didn't I think of that? But even on a smaller level, just, you know, sending an email, reaching out to them, and because they're so used to being the ones offering support to us. You know, right now, there was you know, Tara asked a question about, you know, being a single parent. Well, one of our assistant director at our CRC, she's a single parent, and she's having to balance her recovery, maintaining her job with the center, helping her son stay on track on school. And I've been on some Zoom meetings with him, and that little kid is, he is like the Energizer Bunny, on a case of Red Bulls. And, so she's having to balance all of this stuff. And one thing that she said is, if I'm not taking care of myself, and for her, a big thing of self-care is like prayer and meditation. And I know that's not, everyone's thing, but she's like, if I feel myself getting overwhelmed, she's like, I have to take a few minutes for myself. And she's, sometimes she feels selfish doing that. But she's like, if I don't take a few minutes to myself to just kind of recenter, decompress, then, she can't be supportive for her son, who doesn't, I think he's in kindergarten. So, he understands that something's going on, but he doesn't really get, a lot of the details. She's like, I can't be supportive of him. I can't do my job. My recovery starts to slip a little bit. So yeah, I think, just checking on them, hey, how are you doing? Do you need to talk? Do you, whatever. One thing that I do with our staff is, anyone who knows me knows that I love like dad jokes. So I'll find like the corniest dad joke memes that I can find and just like send them to them. And no one's asked me to stop doing that yet, so I think so far it's helping. But just it's really in the little things, I think.
Thanks for all of you sharing. I kind of had another question come to mind. How important, just from some of the conversations in the group chat we've had, why is it important that we're supporting like our own CRC meetings and other CRC meetings, with the fact that there are so many going on, but what's the importance for the person hosting it? Or what's the importance for being there for other people? Kind of, why is it important besides your own recovery?
Collegiate recovery is this unique world that we all are a part of. And every CRC is different. But we all have, the same goals in mind. We all have the same mission, which is, to support, recovery for, obviously, for students in college. So being able to reach out or support, a meeting that another CRC may be holding, or that, one of our friends is hosting, really is just, I feel like it gives encouragement for them to keep going. I know that a lot of, especially, smaller colleges and universities, they already have a small student group as it is. So when you go to, online settings, it's real easy to get discouraged with, low attendance or, whatever it may be. So just, showing up and saying, I'm here, I think makes a world of difference for someone that's, you don't know what's been going on in their, in their day. So just that extra little bit of support, I think, goes a very long way.
I think too, like this is kind of a time where students who may not have a collegiate recovery program or who may not have a steady or strong recovery program at their school can really come and find that support of other college students in recovery. Because as we kind of know, and especially those that are quote unquote typical age of college students, it's kind of tough being that young and being sober in some ways. And so I think for students like myself, who I didn't have a collegiate recovery program, I came across ARHE and I was like, this sounds cool. Let me be a part of it, by Googling, I think. And, so for people to stumble across that during this time, I think would be a really neat time to shine and get some support in different ways. Because there might be some of those, I don't want to call it quote unquote weirdos out there, not weirdos, but you know what I mean, as far as people who are like, college is what's keeping me sober, being in class is what's keeping me sober. And so if we can kind of even just support those folks, I think that's a good view to take. I also think it's important that even if one person shows up to a Zoom, to at least be there to talk or listen or just be an ear if they just need to blurt some things out. And then you're like, all right. And they're like, that's all I needed to do. And you go, okay. Or, you both play a game on your phone at the same time or something like that. I think it's just that matter of being together in a time when we can't. As weird as it feels, I'll be the first to admit I'm not a fan. Once this is all done, I'm going to be off Zoom for a very long time. I'm not going to touch Zoom for like months once all this is over. But I think it's a very good resource to have now. And I think, part of the importance of just getting on that Zoom call, even if no one shows up, is if you never know if someone might. So.
Yeah, I really appreciate what Ali had to say. Just being present is significant. And I know we had a conversation earlier in the group me about even if no one shows up, you're doing the best you can for your recovery, and you can't be of service to others if you're not still sober. And so that's super important. I would drop in social hours and people didn't come. That's okay. Maybe they're in class, maybe they're busy, maybe they are FaceTiming their nieces and nephews. So just being there and being present. And I know myself, I'm a big extrovert, but I can't talk and get things done. But like Ali talked about, that coexisting is really important to me. So even if I just have a face of a person I've talked to maybe twice in a chat, but they're up there and I know someone else is there in case for some reason everything hits the fan, I can get more stuff done. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but I've talked to other people who are in the same position. And so just having someone there can be really life-changing.
So we only have a few minutes left, so I kind of just want to ask if you could just give one piece of advice to those in recovery right now, kind of what would it be?
Something that I constantly tell myself, and I write it down all over everything that I own, is, just take it just for today. I'm not big into 12-step, but that's like one of the biggest things that has helped keep me sober is let's not worry about tomorrow. Let's not spiral and stuff. Let's just get through today and make sure not necessarily make today count because of like productivity, but make today count because, I'm alive and I'm sober and I'm okay. And like doing little things throughout the day to, keep me busy a little bit. So I'm not just like idling around and stuff. Cause that typically like to me is when I start getting worse with like my addiction and stuff. Just adding like pockets of self-care throughout the day and stuff helps a lot.
I think the main thing that I would say is that, and this is going to sound cheesy or whatever, but, and this is something that I have to tell myself sometimes, and that is that you are beautiful and you are enough. And I think that's really important for us to remember right now.
Something I've been literally telling myself every day, and then others when I get the chance, is the simple one of be gentle with yourself. You're doing the best that you can. And that really resonates with me right now, more so than ever before.
Mine mostly goes to listen to your body and what you need. So I needed to go for a 2-hour walk today. Was I productive during that? No. But I got to call my mom, I got to listen to music, and I got to be outside in sunshine. And the productivity focused part of me, kind of like what Justin talked about, was like, you're wasting 2 hours. Like you could do, but that's okay. I get to do that. It's okay to listen to what I need based on where I'm at in that moment. And it's okay to not meet goals, because goals are very different in the status quo.
Well, if I personally had to give a piece of advice, is just always reminding it's okay to not be okay. That's one thing that I have to remind myself. I don't have to be constantly busy. I don't have to be okay. I can just feel what I'm feeling and continue on. So before we end this webinar, is there anything else anybody would like to add? All right, well, I want to thank everyone for attending and thank all our participants panelists who were able to jump on today.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.